Failure to yield to an emergency vehicle, Scott's Law, the move over law. This is a traffic ticket that has a bunch of different names, and both Illinois police officers and Illinois courts are treating it very seriously. So what does it mean for you? Let's break it down right now. Hi, I'm Derek Martin with Driver Defense Team, and our law firm has seen a huge spike in the number of Scott's Law tickets written recently. So why is it called Scott's Law? Well, Lieutenant Scott Gillen of the Chicago Fire Department was responding to an accident on the side of the road in the year 2000. Unfortunately, he was hit and killed by a drunk driver. So shortly thereafter, a law was enacted, and it's called Scott's Law. Now, this law has been on the books for a while, but many Illinois residents and certainly many visitors to Illinois are not aware of this law. And that's because it has not been enforced all that often. But in the year 2019, everything changed. Unfortunately, in the year 2019, there were more tragedies in the sense that there were 29 Illinois state troopers who were on the side of the road with their lights on, either responding to an accident or pulling someone over, and another driver came along and hit that vehicle 29 times throughout the state of Illinois in 2019. And so, unfortunately, 3 of those troopers were actually killed. As you can imagine, police all over the state have been cracking down on this law. In fact, Illinois state troopers wrote 6,000 of these tickets nearly in the year 2019. Years prior to that, they wrote less than 1,000 tickets. So a huge spike by all law enforcement agencies around the state. So what does Scott's Law require a driver to do? Well, when there is a vehicle ahead on the side of the road with emergency lights on, the driver who's about to approach that needs to do 2 things. They need to slow down and they need to get over. That's what the law requires. Now, within that, there's obviously a number of issues that can be raised, and we're going to go into those now. So the law says things like use caution or slow down or move over when possible. Now, those are often very subjective things. How much? Slow down by how much? What does it mean to actually use caution? What does it mean when possible? Get over when possible. Those are all debatable. And that's the problem with this law, is that one driver may feel that they did slow down enough, but the officer believes they didn't. A driver may believe it was impossible to get away from that vehicle that was disabled on the side of the road, but an officer believes they could have done that. And so since it's so subjective, there is the opportunity to argue these quite a bit. And we have argued a lot of these lately. There are many well-intentioned drivers that were aware of the law that felt that they could not properly slow down or they could not safely get over. Yet they were stopped and they received this ticket. And so we need to deal with that ticket in court. And oftentimes there is an argument to make. We've had success arguing these a number of different ways. There's really a lot of different scenarios that you find out about when you're talking with the driver who received the ticket. One recently was that the trooper was around a bend, and so the driver didn't even have an opportunity to see that police with his flashing lights on until they were already too close up on it, and it was then impossible to slow down and move over. We've had other ones where the trooper actually didn't even have his lights on. He was on the side of the road, somebody passed him in the nearest lane, and then he caught up to him, gave him a ticket. Well, we were able to determine that the lights were not actually on. Officer made an honest mistake, but that is a requirement that those lights be on. Another one would be the driver passed in that nearest lane because their exit was coming up. It would have been impossible or unreasonable for them to get into the far lane and come back to get out through their exit. We've won a number of cases that way, but not every case can be won, right? So oftentimes we find ourselves in a position where we're looking to negotiate. That would be either an amended charge or a reduced charge or something like court supervision on a ticket like this, because we don't want this on your record. This is a ticket that can have an added impact if it does hit your record. So the penalties for a Scott's Law ticket can be pretty steep. First, the fines. If this is your first violation, there is a minimum fine of $250. The maximum fine is $1,000. Plus, they added in a $250 fee for the Scott's Law fund. And so that's really $500 plus court costs. You can easily have an expense of $750 for this ticket for a first offense. Now, if this is a subsequent offense, in other words, if you have a prior, the minimum shoots up to $750. And so now you're easily over $1,000 when you add in those additional costs. Now, this all assumes that there was no accident that involved personal injury or property damage. If there was, it's a far more serious violation. If there was property damage and you're convicted of this ticket, then the Secretary of State in Illinois is going to suspend your license for 90 days. If there was personal injury or death, they're going to suspend your license for between 1 to 2 years if you're convicted of this Scots law violation. So as you can see, there are more severe penalties than just a regular everyday traffic ticket. And also there are some procedural issues with the Scots law violation. First, there is a required court appearance. This is not something where you can simply pay a fine through the mail and be done with it. You're required to appear in court, or you're required to have a lawyer go in your place. Depends, so many judges will want the defendant, the driver, in court. Some of them don't mind. So that's a specific judge by judge, courthouse by courthouse issue. But also, many judges are not dismissing these tickets very easily. In other words, you've probably heard that my officer's not in court, my ticket can get dismissed. Sometimes that's true. It's not often true on a Scots law ticket like this. And that's just simply because the courts are trying to treat them far more seriously. So it should be obvious by now that you probably want a traffic lawyer to represent you on this type of ticket. But first, let's talk about it. As I mentioned earlier, there are a number of different scenarios, and everyone has a story to tell when they receive a ticket like this. So give us a call. We're happy to provide you a free case evaluation. You can tell us what happened. We can provide some feedback. We can talk about your record. We can talk about potential penalties. We can even talk about the judges and the procedures in the courthouse where you have this ticket. So give us a call and we're happy to discuss it with you. I hope you found this helpful and thank you for watching.